where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian. With me is Willow.
Hello.
Why? I don't know.
Happy December, everyone.
Always.
It's cold as fuck.
It's cold as fuck, and
Frigid.
everything's ruined, as per usual.
I see.
Yes. But it's fine, because we're here.
Yep.
We're
and
here.
We're queer.
Well, yes, but don't say that too loudly. We don't want to...
Stop.
All right, so we are covering, for the whole month of December, the Texas killing fields.
Right.
Because it is such a huge case. I've always wanted to do this on the podcast as well. Just take one case for an entire month. And I don't think I could find a better case. And it was your suggestion, and I wholeheartedly agreed.
Thank you.
Because it's so much. And I'm going to do my best, as this is kind of the introductory episode. I want to introduce you to the case. And even though I was really familiar with this case and doing the research, I learned things I had no fucking clue. I'm going to be real mad.
Yeah.
Throughout this whole
it's
episode.
still unsolved. It's still a mystery. Like, that's the thing that gets me most about this case is it's like, who done it?
I mean,
How
there are
many?
some really good... There are people alike for it. And we'll talk about the suspects later.
Yeah.
We'll also get more into the victims. I go into a few of them here. I think to have an episode without the victims would be stupid.
Right.
There are so many. There are
Right.
probably many more than officially listed.
Right.
And we'll go over it. And so the Texas killing fields are a well-known unsolved case with over 30 victims, largely between the ages of 12 and 25. And I don't feel it gets enough coverage, and it never has. And I doubt that all of those cases are going to be solved due to shoddy police work and a lack of attention. And yes, I know there was a recent Netflix documentary about it.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was a movie made about it. I think both are really lacking. Personally, I've seen it covered better on some podcasts. But always there's... I don't know. The podcasts I've listened to annoy me in certain ways. I'm not going to get into why. Usually victim blaming, that'll get me hot right away.
Absolutely.
Again, the victims are between the ages of 12 and 25.
12.
Babies.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 25, you're still a kid to me.
Yeah.
Still a kid to me. Yeah. So, if you are unfamiliar with the Texas killing fields, it is an area off Interstate Highway 45 between Houston and Galveston, Texas, where at least 33 bodies of young women have been found since the 1970s. The fields are a dumping ground for a serial killer, or more likely, multiple serial killers.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the victims have been found on a 25-acre piece of land known as the Calder Roads Field near the town of League City, Texas. And to talk about League City just a minute, and I want us to not look at things how they are now, but go back to how they were then.
Right.
League City was a small suburb, and it was low crime rate. Not quite rural, but almost kind of hovering between rural and a town, you know what I mean?
I mean, compared to Houston.
Oh,
Yeah.
and Galveston?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
exactly.
Yeah. And so it's just this little place, and it was supposed to be just nice and full of families. And so it's strange that this is the spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the dichotomy between wholesome and grotesque, like right there.
Yes. So we'll get into more about the area. It has been described by the FBI as the perfect place to kill someone. You could scream, and though a town is nearby, no one would hear you. You could run, but there's nowhere to go. It's an open field, and while some of the murders have been solved, most have not. I will be going over this case from when it began in the 1970s until the end of the 80s. Mostly. I mean, I'm leaving some stuff out because it gets more into kind of wondering who might the suspects be. And I don't want to get too far into that because we're going to have a whole episode dedicated to the suspects.
Right.
Willow's going to be covering the 90s and 2000s and probably push that in with like the suspects.
Mhm.
We'll figure it out as we go, but we're going to cover this top to bottom. It's important to understand the landscape of Calder Fields. It is desolate. Yes, there are dense suburban areas nearby and all around these fields, but there's a lot of noise from the interstate in addition to noise from the oil field machinery, at least at the time. It is a place surrounded by retention ponds and swampy areas. The further south you go, you run into older oil fields that have been largely abandoned and marshes. In addition, this area gets hit by hurricanes often, and of course, such violent storms displace remains and ruin crime scenes. It is also very, very hot in this area of Texas for almost the whole year. Heat really does a number on remains and speeds up decomposition. So when I'm saying that, we have to understand time is always of the essence to find victims of crimes like this.
Right.
But it's especially true here. It's a good place to destroy evidence, pretty much, by just letting nature take its course, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
In the early 1970s, the Houston and Galveston areas had a boom in population. The oil refineries being built there drew in people to come and work, and Houston became a place that lots of young people visited who lived in Texas and nearby rural states like Oklahoma. It was a big city with lots to do. That's why 15-year-olds Debbie Ackerman and Maria Johnson were in the area. They wanted to go and have some fun in Houston. Debbie and Maria were last seen on November 15th, 1971, attempting to hitchhike to Houston. Remember that during the 70s, this was like a normal and popular thing to do, is to hitchhike.
Absolutely.
And I would say this is the golden era of the serial killer.
Right. Because the accessibility.
Mm-hmm. And the lack of police give a fuck.
Right.
There's just no give a fuck
And
here.
there was just like, I don't know how to describe it other than like a societal like jolliness. I don't know if that makes any sense.
We came from like the kind of naivety and like
the 50s, the 60s.
The 60s
you
had the
know,
summer of love. We're all
yeah.
brothers.
Everybody had the clean haircuts, the, collared
Except for the hippie
shirts.
counterculture. But then you move into the death of that counterculture with the Charles Manson family murders.
Right.
That really
Right.
killed it, by the way.
Yeah.
And then you move it. It's still got a holdover, still feeling the brotherly love. Kids are wanting to be
small
free.
towns grow slower
They do.
in culture.
So hitchhiking was just a means for kids to get around.
Yeah. It was a traditional option back then.
Yeah, all through the 60s and 70s, hitchhiking for young people was really normal and common.
Right.
It's kind of ended, I would say, because of stuff like this, all the serial murders, but also it weirdly became the hitchhiker that was the one you were afraid of, when always it's the driver who picks
Isn't
you
that
up,
right?
you know?
Yeah.
There were movies about it in the 70s, like slasher flicks where the hitcher, that's what the whole
Right.
movie's about.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, the ones hurt are the people being picked up.
Can I give a small anecdote about that?
Yeah.
A friend of mine was pulled over in Oklahoma, and he was hitching a ride from California to Arkansas, and they were pulled over in Oklahoma. The man who was driving the truck who picked him up was a murderer, and he was driving the stolen truck from the family that he had murdered.
My God in heaven.
Yeah, this kid made it home safe, but a cop ended up driving him home, which is just funny because he's a train hopper. So
Yeah, and don't think hitchhiking still doesn't go on.
no, yeah, that was like a few years ago.
I hitchhiked tons in the 90s. Tons. Stupid.
Yep.
Just stupid.
I tried to hitchhike once, but I didn't get very far. I got sat down by somebody who drove a truck and was like, "Darling, you don't want to do this." And I was like, "You're right. Take me home."
Yes.
He did.
These girls were last seen at an ice cream shop in Galveston. Witnesses described seeing the girls being picked up by a man in a white van who had agreed to drive them to Houston, and they were never seen alive again. 2 days later, on November 17th, 1971, their bodies were found partially nude in Turner's Bayou near Texas City. Turner's Bayou is about halfway between Galveston and Houston. The girls had been tied up, and most of their clothing had been removed. And they had been sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
Less than 2 weeks after the deaths of Maria and Debbie, the remains of Colette Wilson, who was only 13 years old, were found near Addicks Reservoir. This place is 10 miles west of Houston. Colette was last seen at the Alvin bus stop on Highway 6. She had been dropped off by her school band director on June 17, 1971. 3 days before Colette's disappearance, the remains of 19-year-old Gloria Gonzalez were found in the very same reservoir. Most victims of the Texas killing fields disappeared along Interstate 45, including Brenda Jones, aged 14, last seen walking to Galveston Hospital. Her body was discovered on July 2nd, 1971, floating in the Galveston Bay. She's not usually included in the first 4 cases that got this case attention because she wasn't found in a field, she was found in the water. But she should definitely be included because many are found in water.
Right.
There was no real media coverage of these killings, the other disappearances on Interstate 45. And I'm not sure why this is, because most of the victims certainly do fall into the category that we tend to care about.
They're children.
They're white girl children.
Right.
Pretty girls.
Right.
But we didn't give a fuck as a nation. Just didn't cover it, didn't care. And I mean, aside from Gloria Gonzalez, of course, she was Hispanic. But media coverage wouldn't begin until a decade later in the 80s. And I will tell you why when we get there. Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely, it just pisses me off. There was a lot of victim blaming. Most of these girls were classed as runaways. As if that matters. They're children.
Right.
Shouldn't that make us more inclined to find them if they ran away? They could be in danger. They were in danger. Some of them did run away, but most of them did not. In addition, a lot of the older victims were known to hang out at bars, have addiction issues, were possible sex workers or cocktail waitresses. So while they were all young, white, and female, they were not considered good victims. It wouldn't be until that perfect victim appeared in this case that it got media attention, which is disgusting. And not just the perfect victim, there's another reason too, and I think that has more to do with it. But yeah, just grosses me the fuck out. Most of the attention to the Texas Killing Fields case centers around Calder Fields or Calder Drive. It's a road, it's just a dirt road, and it's 25 acres stretch of land that I was talking about at the start. It was originally owned by a petrochemical company, and it's sat pretty empty for many, many years. There was also a horse ride business, people would come and pay to ride horses throughout the day, because it's kind of a scrubby area. It's hard to describe. It is desolate. There are some trees. It has dense underbrush, but it literally is just a flat ass field. Yeah. And Calder Drive is even though it was a dirt road, it was kind of a main road that would lead you to Interstate 45. And then that road would end in a dead end. Now it's not like that anymore. I think it's been paved, but it was that way as far back as the 80s. In the area, the very first victim discovered was found by a dog from a nearby neighborhood on April 6, 1984. A boy was walking his dog, and the dog took off and bolted into the brush. The dog returned carrying a human skull. Sorry. Other remains would be found, and they belonged to a 25-year-old local bartender named Heidi Fye. I think her name's cute.
Very.
Her remains were found largely under a tree. She had gone missing on October 7th, 1983. She'd been on her way to Houston to go live with her boyfriend and her mom. She was last seen at a payphone near a convenience store in League City, Texas. Police at the time told the family not to file a missing persons report or to put up flyers because she was just a runaway and she would return. Despite the family saying she would never do that.
Yeah, clearly.
She was going to be with her boyfriend. She wasn't that type of person. Police simply didn't care about a missing cocktail waitress. Because she worked at a bar, this somehow diminished her worth. And I'm sorry, it just really pisses me off.
Because it's the very men that judge women like that go to those establishments.
Exactly.
I don't get it.
No, it absolutely makes me sick.
I'm glad I don't get it.
I don't want to get it.
I don't want
Okay. So moving on. Heidi's father, Joe, relentlessly searched for his missing daughter, despite the police not offering aid or taking the case seriously, because of course, that's what any of us would do if our child went missing. He went all over town interviewing people. He even recorded his interviews. But he died shortly after his daughter went missing, and people feel her disappearance pretty much hastened his death. He just died of a broken heart.
Yeah.
Her cause of death couldn't be determined precisely and was listed as trauma because she had broken ribs. She was identified by her dental records, and you'll find this is often the case with the cases in the killing fields. Because of the advanced decomposition, made it impossible to make a positive identification any other way. Because she was found roughly 5 miles south of the bar she worked at, police initially thought she'd been killed by someone she knew. However, her dad had already gone through all that, and so they went through all of it. Maybe if they'd worked together with the family, they wouldn't have wasted time,
Right.
and other girls wouldn't have died. Pretty much. It was too late for Heidi, but it wasn't too late for the scores of other victims. And I'm pretty sure that the ones I talk about in this little cluster were all killed by the same person. Just, if they came from League City, they were killed by the same person. Yeah, they just didn't care, though. And, they wasted months of time. It was about 6 months until they realized the trail had completely gone cold. Her case remains unsolved. In addition, some of the evidence, like Heidi's clothing and fingernails, which would have definitely had DNA on them, were lost by the medical examiner and the police.
Just lost.
Yeah.
I love how no one's held accountable for that.
Never.
If I were to lose something at work at my shitty little convenience store job, I would be fired.
You would deserve to be fired.
Yeah.
On September 10th, 1984, 16-year-old Laura Miller went missing. She loved music. Her favorite band was Fleetwood Mac. She was beautiful, popular girl, a good student. Her family had recently moved to League City to move her to the schools there. Laura's house was only blocks away from Heidi Fye's house. Because the landlines... Okay, I'm going to help you all out because I'm saying this, you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about because you're young. Back in the day, you had a literal line for the telephone that went into your home that you plugged your phone into the wall, right? And when you were setting up phone service at your house, it would sometimes take up to 2 weeks, especially if they had to run a new line. And sometimes they did.
Yeah.
So they didn't have phone service at their house at the time. Laura's mother drove her to town to use a payphone because Laura wanted to call her boyfriend, Vernon, to ask if he wanted to come over later. This was near the same convenience store where Heidi was last seen using a payphone. Laura's mother was running late for work, and Laura wanted to talk on the phone longer, so she told her mom she'd just walk home because it was only half a mile.
Babe.
Later that day, Laura's father, Tim, got home from work, and Vernon, the boyfriend, knocked on the door. Tim found this odd, and then he found out that Vernon had been invited over by phone and that Laura had never made it home. She had just vanished. It was important to note that this was completely out of character for Laura because Laura had temporal lobe epilepsy that she took medication for religiously twice a day. If she missed a dose, she would definitely have dangerous seizures, and she took this seriously, as did her family. So immediately her parents were terrified she'd had a seizure on the way home. Her family searched the local hospitals to no avail. Laura's mother and father immediately went to the police station after the hospitals and told them that their daughter was missing, and the police said no, she just ran away without her seizure medication that she needed to live. But she would not have run away. She loved her parents. She loved her boyfriend.
Excited to see her boyfriend.
She was super excited to see her boyfriend. League City Police Department was about to fail another young woman.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Miller begged police to search the area that Heidi Fye's remains had been found. But League City police declined to do so, for no good reason, obviously. And it's so infuriating. I can see why people make conspiracies about this case. But
Right?
ultimately, I just think it's police negligence at its finest.
They just don't want to do their job.
They don't give a fuck.
Why be a police officer if you don't want to actually be a police officer? Do your fucking job. Just do your fucking job.
Don't understand.
Just do your job.
This to me is the most heartbreaking of the cases.
Yeah.
Tim Miller found out that police had still not filed a missing persons report months after his daughter went missing.
Dear God.
He felt as though they were gaslighting him, trying to make him seem like a crazy person, when all he was trying to do was find his beloved daughter, Laura. Police also told him not to talk to Heidi's family because they believed that Heidi's murder was an isolated incident, and Tim did not agree. Police eventually took samples of Laura's hair and clothing. As police did absolutely nothing to solve Laura's disappearance, another victim would be found. This victim was found by a group of young boys who were riding their bikes through the area on February 2nd, 1986. Police were unable to identify the female remains, and since they didn't match any of the missing persons cases in the area, she's been relegated to Jane Doe.
Maybe because they won't report the girls missing.
That's kind of my point and why I included it right after that.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Jane Doe had been shot with a .22 caliber firearm that had severed her spine. At the time Jane Doe was found, the field was overgrown with dense brush, and the police thought it likely that evidence was just scattered all over the place. No shit. Sorry, I'm mad. As police searched through the dense brush looking for evidence surrounding the murder of Jane Doe, they came across another body about 25 yards away.
Bet they did.
On the same day that Jane Doe was discovered. Police had discovered the skeletal remains of Laura Miller, who had been missing for nearly 2 years. She was only 60 feet from where Heidi's body had been found. Only 28 of Laura's bones were recovered, and she had to be identified through her dental records. Like Heidi, she had been placed under a tree.
Mm-hmm.
This part makes me want to scream. A blue plaid Western-style shirt was found near the remains. It had stains on it, and many people who study this case believe it to be the killer's shirt. There was no DNA testing at the time, and there never would be tests done on this shirt because the League City Police Department lost it.
This case makes my blood boil.
Yeah, this case makes me nuts. Oh, this part makes me want to cry. They kept Laura's remains for nearly 4 months and were never able to determine a cause of death. They told her father they'd only keep her remains for 60 days, and I can't imagine the pain. Tim had to threaten them with a lawsuit to get his daughter's remains back. And when he got them, he just wasn't sure they were even his daughters, because he didn't trust them. He had a bad feeling. He took her skull to a dentist to make sure. It was her skull, but once again, Tim was right. The medical examiner's office had mixed some of Jane Doe's bones with his daughter's.
That's vile.
And I find this beyond disgusting. It's so disrespectful.
And nobody gets any backlash for their incompetence.
Nobody got fired. Nobody got reprimanded. Nothing happened. They're all dead now, but most of them.
Well, that's good.
I hope they're in hell.
God.
The torture they put this man through. 6 months after the body of his daughter was discovered, Tim and Laura's mother divorced. The strain on them had been too great, and Laura wasn't their first child that they lost. They lost a baby to SIDS, and right before Laura disappeared, Tim's brother committed suicide.
Jesus.
And he had started drinking really heavily. I don't blame him. To pull himself out of this despair, he decided to dedicate his life to the service of others. Tim founded Texas EquiSearch in 2000.
Oh, yeah, this guy.
I love Tim Miller.
Oh, no, this guy's great.
He's
forgot
a
about him.
badass.
Yes, he is. Hell yeah.
It originally began as a search and recovery program that operated on horseback to help families locate missing loved ones. If you follow true crime, you will know that Tim has donated his time to so many families, including the family of Kaylee Anthony. And he said from the start he believed that little girl was dead and close to home. And he was right. They do all kinds of searches now with like drones and ATVs, you name it. They have searched in 48 states, 11 countries, and have worked over 2,600 cases.
And he's mostly on horseback.
He is, yes.
He's the EquiSearch.
They have found 441 people alive.
Wow.
And 355 deceased victims.
That's incredible.
He has dedicated the rest of his life in honor of his daughter, Laura, to bring comfort and answers to families. And I think it is number one, donate to them. I'll put the link in the description of this. One of the best charities out there that does really good work. Tim is a good person.
Yeah. Yeah. You can see it in his eyes. He's a good person.
The empathy he feels. And he knows who killed his daughter. He fucking knows.
Oh, I bet he does.
Yes, he fucking does. And, okay, this part makes me want to scream. But here we go. In 1984, a movie called The Killing Fields was released, which was about the Cambodian genocide. I will cover this on this podcast eventually. It is rough, but people don't even know about it anymore. But people adopted the name for the Calder Fields cases. Thus, the name the Texas Killing Fields was born. And this is when it got media attention because they came up with a catchy name. Media wouldn't cover it till then. Just had to get that catchy name.
That's disgusting.
And enough good girls had died by then. Enough good girls.
It's just to sell. It's just to sell newspapers. It's just to sell
You're absolutely
magazines.
Right.
It's literally just for the press.
So you ask yourself this. You're sitting here right now hearing about this case and your heart's just breaking. How many are there that we will never hear about?
Right.
Never. By 1986, police were finally considering that these murders and abductions were all connected. No shit. And they might even connect to murders dating back to 1971. Between the years of 1971 and 1977, the remains of 11 young women and girls had been found all along Interstate 45 between Houston and Galveston, and police departments just weren't sharing information between each other. How many times we run into this on this show?
Almost every single time.
They still aren't to this fucking day, and we have computers and shit. Okay, I'm gonna have a rant for just a minute. Everybody's pissed at AI, and I get why. Y'all don't think it does anything. Why aren't we taking it and using it in crime solving to collate all this data from all databases and police jurisdictions so we can stop this shit? This could stop human trafficking, serial killers, child rapists, because these people operate within patterns, and AI is so good at patterns. Stop generating these stupid, ugly fucking pictures. Stop taking work away from human artists and use AI how it was meant to be used, which is to fucking help humanity. And I am just so mad because it could. We are literally at the stage, we are almost at AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which means AI is smarter than every human being on the face of this earth. But we won't use it unless it's making money. And I just want you to sit there and think about all the DNA tests it could go through, all the rape kits it could analyze.
Right.
But we're just not going to do it because that just doesn't make money, does it? So who cares? I'm so frustrated. I'm so mad. Not just for these girls, but I'm mad for us, for all of us. We don't deserve this shit. We deserve a better world than we have. The thing is if just women were seen as people instead of fucking objects like a chair or a dog, maybe then they'd give a fuck. Come at me for being political, and at this point, I'm just going to tear into you like a fucking Rottweiler.
I really don't think human rights should be political, but whatever.
It's not. I'm pissed because it's not right. I'm just saying what is right. And you can feel it in your heart when something is right or wrong. Mm-hmm. And it is wrong that we are taking this amazing, like, fucking mind-breaking technology. And what are we using it for? Let's deepfake some porn. Fuck all y'all. Not y'all listening, but the people who do that shit. Anyway, I'm just gonna stop. So, was a serial killer responsible for all of these deaths? Or was there more than one roaming up and down Interstate 45? Not a question we can definitively answer, but my answer is, duh, there was more than one. Because if you don't think that these cunts don't run in some dark-ass circles with other shitty cunts making plans, then you're wrong. Then you're just wrong. These scumbags talk to each other. I am convinced. Not all of them. I know that, like Israel Keys, I doubt he talked to anybody else. Yeah. But there are plenty of them that would.
It's like, if you've ever been in, like, the drug scene, you can kind of understand it from, like, that point of view.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to go with.
Yeah. All the pillheads know each other.
All people drop acid, know where the acid people are.
Yes. All the people who candy flip, who do Molly, or, like, certain pressies, they all know each other because they all...
I know who had the Xanax. Okay?
I stay far away from that, but...
I do now.
Yeah, but
back then...
Yeah, exactly. But, so, yeah, you can kind of understand that, like... These guys are doing a very niche, in a sense, a drug.
Look, birds of a feather flock to fucking together, and what they said was the police here don't care.
Yep.
It's right on an interstate.
Yep.
And they didn't even have to talk. They could look at the papers. Mm-hmm. They could see that these just aren't getting solved and nobody knows.
Right.
And how hard it is to find the bodies.
Well, and it's just like the ones that happen off the highways in California. It's like...
It's the same shit.
Yeah, it's like the bodies are just piling up, and... They were getting serial killers, victims mixed up between the cases
because
they didn't know
on
whose
top
body
of each other.
Was whose. Yeah.
Well, it was like the Long Island serial killer. Mm-hmm. They were literally finding bodies on top of bodies.
Yeah.
Rage. Green River Killer, another example. Like, yeah, it could be one guy. It never is, though. I swear to you, this is not one dude. I'd say this is at least 3 or 4.
Wouldn't it be funny if they were like distant cousins or something, like they're in the same family?
Would not surprise me. I'm only going to talk about one of the suspects because it kind of ends our 80s era.
Okay.
So on July 29th, 1985, a 29-year-old woman named Ellen Ray Simpson Beeson vanished. Ellen lived with her friends and her brother in Friendswood, Texas. She was a waitress at the bar Heidi Fye had worked at, the Texas Moon Club. She went dancing on the weekends because she loved country dancing. She was last seen at the Texas Moon Club. She was there with her friend Candy. She met a man named Clyde Edwin. I can't say his name. It's like Hedrick. I think it's Hedrick. It's Hedrick. Okay.
Oh, no, it's Hedrick.
Huh?
It's Hedrick.
It's pronounced Hedrick.
Hedrick?
No.
Oh, I thought it was Hedrick.
It is Hedrick. Yeah, CK.
That's my dead last name. I had to double check and make sure that he wasn't a family member of mine.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, dude.
So it's Hedrick?
Hedrick.
Okay, well, everyone on other podcasts and shows are saying
they used to
wrong.
say that whenever they'd call my name in roll call too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So he was, okay, now this gets really confused. There's conflicting information here, whether she was dating him or whether she just met him that night.
He was one of those like smooth talking cowboy
I'm about to get
types.
into that. Yeah. He had a different lady all the time. Yeah. Because he was a dancer. He was a line dancer, and they called him Clyde the Slide. Yeah. And anyway, I believe they were already dating. I believe that she knew she was going to meet him there that night with her friend, and because they were going to dance. So, and he was known as a real ladies' man. She told friends that night that she and Clyde were going to go skinny dipping, and she was never seen alive again. Clyde was brought in for questioning after Ellen's disappearance, and he claimed that she had gone with some friends in a truck and they never went skinny dipping that night. Police then had no further interest in him for some fucking reason. They're like, oh, okay, bud, I'll just take your word for it. None of this is sus as fuck at all. because he knew Heidi, and he knew Laura too.
He probably knew the cops too.
Probably. Because we'll get into conspiracy theories later on down the line.
Clyde's a good guy.
Oh, he's a bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
He's a hardworking man.
Oh, yeah, we all know Clyde.
Candy, Ellen's friend, I'm sorry, Candy, I'm about to drop some shade on you, girl, started dating Clyde shortly after Ellen disappeared. What the fuck? Fuck are you doing? You needed a mama to slap the shit out of you.
Jesus.
Knock the taste out your mouth. If that were my child, I would throw hands. No! Number one, the hoe code. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. You don't touch what's been touched before. We do not share wieners. Stop it. Don't. And that's the last person your friend was seen alive with? Mm-hmm. Sweetie. Mm-hmm. It is a miracle you're alive, and I hope you think in your head, as an old woman today, the fuck was I doing? Mm-hmm. Ooh, Candy. She kept pestering Clyde about, like, what happened to Helen? Where did she go? Where do you think she go? Did you know where she go? But every time she brought up Ellen, Clyde would get very agitated. And once, after getting particularly irritated with Candy over talking about Ellen so much, he drove her to the spot Ellen's remains were found. It took her 6 months to go to police. Candy, fuck you. Ellen's remains were found skeletonized under a couch off a dirt road. There was a little pond nearby.
Dear God.
Her cause of death could not be determined at the time, and she was found 6 months after her disappearance. It's important to note that Clyde was the Miller's next-door neighbor, and Laura had told her father, Tim, that she was scared of him.
Oh. Lovely.
Other victims from this time period, I'm going to go down the list of victims now. All of them from the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
Susan Lee Eads was 20 years old. She disappeared from Harris County, Texas on August 30th, 1983. She'd been walking to her workplace. She was found a few miles from her home, naked, covered in bruises. She'd been strangled with her bodysuit. She was last seen talking to a man in a cowboy hat. What did Clyde like to wear?
Cowboy hat.
Michelle Angela Garvey was 15 years old when she went missing on June 1st, 1982. She was a suspected runaway, but we know how that goes. Her body was found on July 1st, 1982 in Baytown, Texas. She had been strangled and sexually assaulted, as were most of the victims, when such a thing could be determined. Tina Gale Klaus was 17, and Harold Dean Klaus was her husband, and he was 21. They were found on January 12th, 1981 in Harris County, Texas, which is just south of Houston. I believe Harold is the only male victim.
Probably because he was with her.
He was, because they're a married couple. A person walking their dog said that their dog got loose and returned carrying a human arm.
Jesus.
Tina had been strangled and assaulted. Harold was bound and beaten to death. They had a daughter together named Holly Marie, who was located safe and sound in Oklahoma. Suzanne Bowers was 12 when she vanished on May 21st, 1977 in Galveston, Texas. Her skeletal remains were found on March 25th, 1979 in Alta Loma, Texas. Took them 2 years to find that baby girl. Brooks Bracewell was 12 and Georgia Caroline Greer was 14 when they were last seen at a convenience store on September 6, 1974 off Interstate 45. Police insisted they were runaways. They didn't even consider foul play until 1981. In 1976, partial skeletal remains were found in a culvert in Alvin, Texas, belonging to Brooks. More remains were found months later when police returned. Kimberly Ray Pitchford was 16 when she was last seen at Dobie High School. She'd gone there to take her driving test. This was in Houston on January 3rd, 1973. Her body was found in a ditch by two teenage boys 2 days later in Angleton, Texas. Allison Ann Craven was 12 when she vanished on November 9th, 1971, when she was walking home to her apartment in Houston, Texas. 3 months later, her partial remains were found in a field nearby. The rest of her was found on February 25th, 1972, in that same field that was only 10 miles from where she was last seen. Rhonda Renee Johnson, age 14, and Sharon Lynn Shaw, age 13, disappeared from Harris County, Texas on August 4th, 1971. They were last seen near a local beach in Galveston. On January 3rd, 1972, 2 boys found a human skull floating in the water while they were fishing. 6 weeks later, 6 weeks later, they found the rest of her and her friend. Dental records identified the girls. This is just a brief overview of the victims and the state of the case in the 70s and 80s. Shoddy police work really wrecked any chance of solving some of these, and we will be covering more suspects. The convicted ones, too, because Clyde does end up getting convicted for the death of Ellen. But I guarantee you he killed Heidi and Laura, too. And possibly more. I just wanted to give a good overview so you guys can know what you're in for. This is a very frustrating, upsetting, and occasionally triggering case. I think it absolutely could be solved, but I don't think anyone gives enough of a fuck. They didn't then, why would they now?
It could have been solved.
Absolutely. That shirt. You know that was Clyde's fucking shirt. It was a Western shirt, and he was into that style of clothes.
Them pearl snaps.
And he loved them pearl snaps, that motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
There are others. There's some that can't convict because they're dead.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about all of this in the weeks to come. But as you can see, this is such a huge case with so many suspects, so many victims, and I promise you, there are more victims.
Yeah.
Way more. I think we probably got over 100.
Yeah.
We're not going to clearly go through all of them. Most of them are Jane Does and stuff. Mm-hmm. But to date, most of the victims have been identified that are on the official list. And I didn't include those, like the Jane Doe I talked about in this case. She was eventually identified through, I believe, DNA. But for the most part, I don't see a lot of work being done on this case. And it's time. Texas, fuck you. I don't know what your fucking problem is. You don't make sense to me, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I just want justice for Tim Miller.
Yeah.
Just because Clyde's 68 years old now. He's still in jail. He should go to trial for Laura's murder and Heidi's murder, for sure. I think they have enough evidence on him for both of those. Mm-hmm. They're never going to do it, but they should.
Right.
But yeah, I will link where you can donate to Texas EquiSearch. I don't even know how you get like police departments to actually work on cases. I guess media attention, but I'm not big enough for anyone to give a shit. I just feel so frustrated.
Yeah.
I feel so frustrated with this whole case. But yes, we'll be back here same time next week, Friday. If you're on Patreon, you will hear this episode late Wednesday night, early Friday morning. So early Thursday morning. So you get it at least 24 hours, possibly more ahead of time. So that is one good reason to join Patreon. You can now commission us to do a custom episode for you. We'll cover any case you want. You can have any set of hosts you want. You can even have me solo or Willow solo. Whatever. We'll do it within reason. Within reason. Don't be weird at me. That's all I ask. And we'll cover whatever. We'll even review movies. I don't give a fuck. Shit's fun. I'll do it. I'll talk about whatever. You want to know more about the Omegaverse and all the werewolf porn? I'll happily do that too. Anything.
No, thank you.
Yeah, maybe, if you're going to ask for porn stuff. Hey, I have good news though. Somebody is doing another podcast.
What?
Because I hate myself.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's a podcast about the wonderful world of erotica. About writing it, about reading it. I'll be reviewing books like that I read, my spicy books, and y'all are reading them too. Y'all are. the fantasy romances, the like dark romance where it's just abuse, but we put hearts on it for some reason. Listen, we're reading it all, and I'm going to talk about it. And it'll be very fun. And Maris is there, too, to be embarrassed. So these are shorter podcasts. They're just fun little snippets about my life as a smut slinger. So if you will join me, I'll have all that information pretty soon. I'm probably recording about 5 episodes before I actually release it. So look for it like in February. I'm aiming to release it on Valentine's Day.
Yay.
Indeed.
That was, yeah, supposed to be a yay, but
guess what? You can buy Patreon memberships for your friends now. Mm-hmm. And that will be available probably in the next couple days. So 2 a week. Give me time. I will do it. I have to set it up. It's confusing. Patreon sucks my balls. I don't have balls, but if I did, they'd suck them. And then we got merch. Hoodies. Totes. Mugs. Look, it is hoodie season. It's cold as balls out there. I said balls twice in one episode. You want to be snuggly? Our hoodies are warm as fuck, too.
You need a big hood.
You need a big hoodie with big old pockets in it for your hands because it's cold. Get you one. Merch is on sale right now on Teespring, I believe, which is where we have our stuff. Go get it. Go get the shit. Hurry, hurry, scurry. Mm-hmm. If it's not on sale, I'm sorry. It was last time I looked. But you can definitely look at Honey, that extension for your browser. Mm-hmm. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't know why. I will shill. But you can use that or look up coupons online. I'm sure there are some to get it at least 30 to 50% off. So get you some merch. But other than that, if you're on YouTube, please comment. Just say Omegaverse. I don't care what you say. Just let me know that you love me and hit the like and the subscribe and all of this stuff and the notification bell. I don't know. Just do the things other YouTubers tell you to do.
Click them.
Click them. Click them. Get them. But other than that, if all you can do to support this podcast is listen, hey, thanks. I appreciate you. And Lillian's Car is Broken Fund is currently up and running. So if you want to send me a little love on coffee, I'd sure appreciate it. Because, my car broke down again.
Again.
It broke down so hard this time, though.
Twice in a week.
It broke down twice in a week. The battery went out, and I replaced that, and then it ran really great for one day. Mm-hmm. And then on Thanksgiving... Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lord. It's either the catalytic converter again, which is an $800 repair, or my fuel injector. $600. So, help me. Please.
And I need a new alignment. So.
Willow's car's about to shake itself to death. She took me to get groceries yesterday. And look, first of all, I love her. Thank you. That is so nice of you. But the car was scary, made a scary sound. So if you want to donate to help our cars go, that would be appreciated. We can't both be down without a car. That cannot occur. You just got yours back.
Yep.
What, in September?
Yep. I just got my first speeding ticket in over 15 years.
For going 38 and a 30?
Yeah.
It wasn't even good speeding, And
it wasn't a good day either. It was just all around a really bad day.
Y'all, I hate saying that we're always going through it, but the fact is we're poor.
Yeah.
And if you're poor, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I'd be a lot happier if there was a couple more digits in my bank account.
I'd be happy if there was one more, 1 0. I am not good. I think I have $5.18.
23 cents.
Oh my God, I'm so much richer than you.
Yeah. I got my bills paid, but...
well, listen to this.
More I do.
My kid's birthday, my middle child, will be turning 20 years old on the 7th. It's in a couple days. And I can't get them anything. And it just makes me feel like a big piece of shit.
I told my kids they get time for Christmas.
That's a good one. I mean,
that's literally all I have. And
that's not knock it though. That's precious. What it should be about. It is precious. It cannot be bought. Oh wait, yes it can.
Sure can.
Never mind.
Yep.
But they get it for the low cost of free.
Ish. Yeah.
Kinda. Oh God. Hamburger, help us.
Late stage capitalism is bullshit.
We are suffering. And we're still funny.
Yeah.
God bless us. No, but I understand holidays are rough for everyone. Don't feel pressured. don't. But if you have it, I'll take it. Lord, I just am so exhausted. I've been working 10 to 12-hour days.
Yep.
And y'all, I will admit it fully right now. I've been going through a real bad depression since July, and I'm trying to shake it off, but shit like this don't make it easy. And I know Willow's been... I think you're doing better, but you were in a real bad depressie also.
I resorted to disassociation and numbness because if it does not serve me, fuck it. I'm not going to be sad. I'm not going to feel nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go to work and overexhaust myself.
You're very tired all the time.
I'm very tired.
Bitches be tired, but we love you. And we are dedicated to this podcast, even though making every episode is hard sometimes.
Rain or shine.
Because we have no time and we're exhausted and we're poor. But anyway, love you. Thank you. We'll go now. Bye. Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/Cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.